Ms. Christiana Figueres, thank you for being here at the American Society Council of the Americas. One of your goals has been to avoid the mistakes leading up to the Copenhagen summit. What do you see as the key to making bigger strides in Paris next year at what will need to be accomplished in Lima later this year?
Well, there are many lessons that have been derived from Copenhagen, despite the fact that I think I'm one of the most enthusiastic proponents of Copenhagen, because I think Copenhagen actually delivered quite a bit. It was probably the most successful failure the UN has ever had. Independently of that, I think there are many lessons to be learned from Copenhagen. One that I would like to highlight here today is the need to have very serious preparatory work in terms of the preparation of the text, the agreement that is going to be put on the table. In Copenhagen, when governments got there, when heads of state got there, they were faced with 300 pages of undigested text. So that makes it extremely difficult for heads of state to actually be able to wade through all of that material and distill out of that what is a high-level agreement. So we're working very hard this year to have a draft agreement already in place in Lima of this year, and to have governments begin to work with that draft text throughout Lima, and then of course next year with the purpose of having a very well matured text by the time they all come to Paris next year.
You've said that women play an essential role in the climate change challenge. Why is that role essential, and how is it different from the role that men play?
Well, it's essential for a very simple numerical reason, which is we are 50% of the global population, and hence we are at least 50% of the potential solution to climate change. And historically, women have not been empowered enough to contribute their full potential. So at minimum, we should be participating in equal measure, men and women, to be able to contribute the ideas and the creativity and honestly the tenacity that it takes to reach these agreements. And I count on my fellow women to have that. In addition to that, I also am perhaps partial to my own gender, and I feel that women can, if they want, not necessarily prescriptive, and men, if they want, can take a very much more inclusive view and be more understanding of the differences that everyone brings to the table, and hence perhaps more capable or more sensitive to where the common ground could be. Maybe because we have to do that as mothers, and we have to solve the fights of children and figure out at home what is going to make everybody at least partially happy and satisfied. So I think we have that innately in us. And it is definitely a skill set that is sorely needed in these negotiations.
The reality is that women are still a minority in the talks. Would the outcome be different if women were not the minority?
That's, of course, is speculation. I would hope that they would be different for many reasons, among which could be a larger participation of women. But in any event, what is factual and not speculation is that in Doha, the governments, when they got together at the Conference of the Parties, they took a very far-reaching decision precisely about broadening the participation of women in all of the bodies, all of the governance institutions that have been defined and institutionalized under the Climate Change Convention. And so we're on the way toward 50-50 in those governance bodies. They also requested the secretariat that I lead to begin to quantify the relationship between men and women in delegations of countries. And we're doing that. The last year was the first time that we presented those numbers. And they are honestly sobering. Some of the bodies that we have don't have more than 25–30% of women on their governing boards. In the delegations, sometimes we have even those low numbers. So there is much work to be done, but there's also a lot of enthusiasm about getting more women, in particular more women from developing countries, on board and contributing to the decisions and the solutions.
A more personal question: as a woman in a leadership role, what would you advise to younger women? for them to balance work and life and be as successful as you have been?
First, to do your homework. You can't expect to participate in any environment that brings about solutions, in particular to global problems, without having really understood what is it all about. So there's a lot. The first investment that we all have to make, whether men or women, is truly into very, very good education and really understand the topic that you want to get invested in depth. I think women are held to an even higher standard of excellence and a higher standard of understanding of the topics perhaps than men, and so we have to live up to it, and we have to be able to perform when it is requested of us. And then at home, it is actually up to us. I think the next generation, it's not even going to be a topic anymore, because we will be at 50-50, we will be at parity, but that depends on you and me role modeling that at home. That depends on being an example for our daughters and for our sons, so that they understand that this is the way the world works. Naturally, it should not be a big deal. We are 50% of the global population. We do have at least 50% of the wisdom. We do have 50% of the experience. So we should be 50% of the solution. And we have to role model that as something that is completely natural to the next generation, because that is the way that they understand it. They don't understand it as a huge challenge. Thank heavens.
It wasn't like that when you were growing up. So what made you what you are? Did you have a role model?
It's very interesting. Actually, the fact is that most of my role models have been men, ironically enough, because I don't see a differentiation there in performance because they're men or women. I have admired what has been done by these people. I would say my main role model in my life has been my father, who dedicated his public service to social justice issues in Costa Rica and in Latin America. And I always grew up with the conviction that it would be my responsibility and that of all of my siblings, whether they're my sisters or my brothers, to follow in my father's footsteps and to devote our public service to social justice, whether that be at the national level, at the international level, or at the global level. I happen to have chosen to do it at the global level. My siblings do it at another level. But there never was an issue about should it be different because I'm a daughter and my brother is a son. It was just always expected of us that we would stand up to task. And so we have done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.